is a monument connected to law of contract? Let me give you a clue through an illustration. I'm sure you all would have visited places such as the Taj Mahal, Qutub Minar, Golconda Fort, or such tourist attractions. I remember my trip to the Gateway of India, where these photographers are waiting to take your picture. One photographer asked me to smile and click the picture. I thought, oh, how sweet of this person. But then he smiled back and said, Ma'am, that would be 400 rupees. Now, am I obliged to pay this person money? Well, in today's session, we would try to find an answer to such questions. To answer this question, we need to understand the legal concept of quasi-contract. Quasi-contracts are relations that resemble a contractual relation. These are based on principle of equity and good conscience. Now let me ask you, if you have to answer this question, would your answer be a yes or a no? I think most of us would say yes. Why? Because we know that the photographer was expecting a fee for taking pictures. Now this is the foundation of quasi-contracts. No one should be enriched at the cost of another. In quasi-contracts, a person whom we call the defendant is enriched by receiving a benefit. This benefit is at the cost of the complainant or the plaintiff, and the benefit is unjustified. Now let's look at legally recognized categories of quasi-contractual relations. First category is provided for in Section 68 of the Indian Contract Act. These are relations where the benefit is obtained by a minor in the form of supply of necessities. Let me give you an example. If I'm selling books to or paying for the education of a minor, can I claim the expenses from the minor's estate? This is brought under the category of quasi-contracts because contracts with a minor are not legally enforceable. But if the contract involves supply of necessities such as food, clothing, education, medicines, etc., then the value of the same can be claimed from a minor's estate or property. That brings us to the next question. If I'm spending for the education of a minor, can I decide to send the minor to an expensive private school and then claim the amount? This is decided by the social and economical status of the minor, along with the stage of life the minor is in. Next category of quasi-contracts relates to payments made by an interested party, given in Section 69 of the Indian Contract Act. What are the essentials of such quasi-contracts? Let me give you an example. If I am a tenant and I pay the property tax on behalf of my landlord, can I claim it from my landlord? Yes. Therefore, to recover money from the defendant, the plaintiff needs to prove that, number one, the plaintiff was interested in the payment. Number two, the plaintiff was not bound to pay. Number three, the defendant was under a legal compulsion to pay. And lastly, the plaintiff made payment to another person and not to himself. Applying this to the example at hand, I am interested in ensuring the tax is paid. Otherwise, the property might be seized by the taxing authority and I will have to look for another place, which might be inconvenient or difficult for me. Am I bound to pay? No. The liability is upon my landlord and not on me. Is the landlord obligated to pay? Yes. And finally, am I making that payment to someone else? Yes. Hence, I can claim that money from the landlord. The third category is similar to the example of the photographer at the Gateway of India. These are called non-gratuitous acts. As per section 70, the essentials are: first, the plaintiff did the act with the thought of being paid. Second, the defendant had the choice to reject or accept the service. Third, the service was rendered without any request from the defendant. Fourth, the service was rendered lawfully. And finally, the defendant derived direct benefit from the act of the plaintiff. Now apply this provision to our example. Did the photographer do the act with an expectation of being paid? Did I have a choice to say yes or no? Did I ask for the picture? Did the photographer act lawfully? And finally, did I derive any benefit from the photograph? Well, if the answer to all the questions is a yes, then I am liable to pay the photographer. Rather, the photographer can sue me for non-payment of his fee. The last two categories of quasi-contracts are provided for in section 71 and 72. Finder of goods are persons who find your wallet or to whom goods are delivered by mistake. So if Amazon delivers a product to me instead of my neighbor who ordered and paid for those goods, I am liable to pay the value of that good to my neighbor if I decide to use the product. Section 72 covers relations wherein A and B jointly owe 100 rupees to C. A alone pays the amount to C, and B, not knowing this fact, pays 100 rupees over again to C. C is bound to repay the amount to B. To sum up, quasi-contracts are recognized by law to prevent unjust enrichment of an individual at the cost of another. So the next time you accept a prepaid product delivered to you by mistake, make sure to give it to your neighbor, as your neighbor can claim the money from you and even sue you for the same. Thank you.